Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joined today is your City Administrator, Chad Brecklin. Chad, welcome back to TF. And how you doing? I always ask you every time.
Yeah, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Excellent.
Today we're focused on one topic and one topic only, and that is the talk about possible referendum. You've talked about it with us on the show quite a bit in the last several months. Information is out there now, and so today we are solely focused on explaining the kind of the process that we're going through, so everybody knows out there in viewer land what's happening and just timelines as well. So first and foremost, I've asked you this question before. Going to ask you again, is how did we arrive at even having discussion of a possible referendum?
Yeah, so as we've chatted previously, last summer, summer of 23, approximately in June, the City Council had sought some information on what might be additional ways in which it could address the levy limit constraints that the city is under due to notable growth. And even though that growth does allow for budgetary adjustments through net new construction, that net new construction oftentimes does not necessarily equate to having the ability to add a corresponding increase in staff or other services. And oftentimes that net new construction merely allows the city, through its budget, to maintain status quo services to adjust for inflationary pressures and other increases in providing the day-to-day services. So the City Council, through a couple of meetings through the summer of last year, ultimately came to the conclusion that they felt the most appropriate potential solution to the levy limit issues would be operating referendum, a recurring operating referendum, and that 2024 could be an appropriate time to do that referendum in time for the 2025 operating budget. So in the fall of last year, the city engaged with a communications firm who specializes as one of their functions in municipal and school district referendum outreach to help with outreach efforts as it relates to a potential referendum. As part of that outreach, city staff has assessed what its potential staffing needs might be through a couple of ways. One of which was an organizational and staffing study conducted by an outside consulting firm, Baker Tilly, in the first half of last year that identified some organizational and staffing needs in the city. And then the second avenue that was utilized was during the operating budget process. All department heads were asked to identify their anticipated personnel needs over the next 5-year period. Using those two documents, or two pieces of information, staff has presented that information to the Common Council. I think that total was right around $7 million or so, if I recall correctly, for all of the potential staffing requests that had been identified over the next 5 years. And then staff also asked Council what they might wish to see from an operating budget perspective that could be included in a referendum. Some examples that were provided to Council that they ultimately have continued to have a strong interest in include staffing, obviously, that we've mentioned, both public safety staffing as well as other areas within city government that need additional staffing, and then increase in transit increase in transit service enhancements, largely focusing on improving our east-west or enhancing our east-west intra-city transit to effectively connect our northwest corner of our city with our northeast corner of our city and points between the two. And then also considering a potential expansion of the future BRT service that's planned for the city of Fitchburg. And then finally, the other item that the council has identified is operating costs associated with the proposed new police services facility. So those things are kind of the 4 buckets, so to speak, or 3 to 4 buckets that have been examined and continue to be part of the conversation. And I'll pause now since you may have another question.
Well, the follow-up, yeah, because you can just keep going, which is okay, man. And I'll tell you where you can reference all this, so you don't have to memorize it here on it. But as far as moving forward, so it's been identified. Next steps is we want to hear from the residents, and so this information was released in the final week here in February as we tape this today. But moving forward, there'll be information is out there, but a community survey here is we're looking for feedback on the buckets that we just talked about, or the areas we just talked about.
Absolutely. The Common Council and city staff have a strong desire to hear from our community as regards to what their priorities are and what, if any, amount might they potentially support for a referendum. And if they do support a referendum, what are those priorities that they would want to see included in that referendum. So as I mentioned, we have retained an outside consulting firm who has also helped us draft or has drafted a survey that is likely to hit mailboxes here for all of our residential addresses on or about March 6th. Each residential address will get one paper copy of the survey, and folks can either complete that paper copy and mail it back, postage paid, or they could go online utilizing the information that's contained on the front of that survey and complete that survey online. And if there are more than one individuals of voting age within a residential address, additional copies of the survey can be obtained either by visiting City Hall to get a paper copy if that's your request, or calling the city clerk's office and requesting an online access code. I will note that all of those online access codes are unique. We are really focusing our efforts on ensuring that we get feedback from those who reside in Fitchburg and are of voting age. So you will be asked, anybody that contacts the city will be asked to provide a name and address in which they live at, so that we can, again, ensure that we're getting as best information as we can in regards to community feedback on this possible referendum.
And then the next step after that is taking the data that's collected and presenting that at council. What is that time frame?
Yeah, so the survey will be open until March 22nd, and then the company that puts those surveys together, it's called Community Perceptions, I believe, will be presenting preliminary survey results to the council during the April Committee of the Whole meeting, which will be the fourth Wednesday in April. I don't have the date right off the top of my head, but I'm sure you'll have my back on this one and offer the date and time of that particular meeting. But that definitely will be an opportunity for interested community members to learn more about what their other community members may have responded in that survey.
And finally, and most important here, after that is completed, it is up to council to decide whether or not to pose the question of putting that on, and what does that time frame look like, and participation from citizens as well. Yeah,
so it's possible there could be some continued discussion and debate at that Committee of the Whole meeting that I have mentioned in April. And then the council will basically have the month of May to determine whether or not they are going to go to a referendum. And if they elect to go to a referendum at this point in time, that referendum question would be planned to be placed on the August 13th ballot for the partisan primary.
And that would explain at that point too, what the question is and everything at that point. But that's for another discussion down the road. Ultimately, as we wrap up here, Chad, we've talked about this on the show, how we got to here. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but the sum up of all of this is?
So the sum up of all of this is that the city is growing, and as a result of a growing community, that growth, while substantial, has not necessarily allowed the city to provide for the staffing and other service increases that a growing community may need. We are currently about to embark on active engagement of our residents to determine what, if any, level of support or interest they may have in an operating referendum. And the Common Council will be able to use that information to determine how best to proceed coming up in the months of April and May.
All right, we'll continue to get the information out for the deadlines on the survey, the timing of that. You'll be back here on the show to keep us updated as well. Chad, appreciate the time and information. FitchburgWI.gov is where you can find the information related to the stuff we discussed today. There's a website dedicated to this. On that page is called 2024 City of Fitchburg Referendum. If you want to search for keywords there on the website to find that. And Chad, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And people can provide feedback to you as well, or if
Absolutely.
any questions on that information is on our website as well.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.